live for the days when the band is together, because there's nothing can quite equal it.
Breaking news from the man in rock history, Mark, the famously reserved frontman of Dire Straits, just did something nobody saw coming. He finally revealed 6 bands he couldn't stand. Yes, you heard that right, the man whose guitar solos could make angels weep apparently has a secret hate list. And honestly, that's more shocking than finding out your grandpa secretly loves Tick. For decades was known for his laid-back voice, clean-picking style, and total aversion to music industry drama. Yet here he is, shaking up the piece like a British tea party gone wrong. Fans are split, half think he's joking, the other half are making bingo cards trying to guess who's on the list. Was it about rivalry, ego, or just pure taste buds of the ear? Whatever it is, this revelation is pure catnip for music gossip lovers. And yes, we've got all the juicy details coming up next. Who really is Mark? Before we dive into the drama, let's rewind for a second. Mark isn't just a random rocker with opinions. He's the brain behind Sultans of Swing, Money for Nothing, and the kind of guitar tone that can make even a rock critic cry in 4K. Born in Glasgow and raised in Newcastle. Built a career on restraint while everyone else in the 80s was throwing fireworks and wearing leather pants than their moral compass. He's basically the anti of humble, classy, and allergic to fame. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have opinions sharper than his Fender pick. In fact, insiders say his private playlists are full of what he doesn't like, and when he finally decided to spill the beans, the music world braced for impact. Because if a man who never shouts suddenly raises his voice, you know something legendary is about to go down. Why would hate other bands? Now the big question, why would a quiet legend like even hate anyone? The answer might lie in his perfectionist streak. While others chase fame, chase sound literally. He's the guy who could spend an hour tuning a guitar string to make it feel like home. So when he looks at bands that rely more on hairspray than harmony, you can guess he's not amused. Some say it's rivalry, others say it's creative disgust, but maybe he's just allergic to auto-tune. Reports suggest his gripes aren't personal but philosophical. He once said music should breathe, not shout, which sounds deep until you realize half the rock world built their careers by shouting. So when he drops his most hated list, it's not about beef, it's about musical honesty. Still, let's be honest, seeing a calm guy throw shade is like watching a turtle suddenly learn code, unexpected and oddly satisfying. The list emerges, 6 bands that drove him mad. So who made it onto Mark? You won't find me at your concert list. While the names vary across interviews and fan rumors, a few usual suspects keep popping up: mega bands that clashed with his philosophy. Reports point to U2 for their stadium excess, Bond for turning rock into commercials, Guns N' Roses for mixing talent with chaos, for being too safe, the Rolling Stones for overstaying the party, and the Clash for their noisy rebellion. Reportedly said some bands traded soul for spectacle, and you can almost hear him sighing over a cup of English tea. Of course, fans are taking this with a grain of salt. Some even joked, he probably hates Wi-Fi too. But whatever the truth, one thing's certain, taste is as old school as a vinyl record on a rainy Sunday. The man likes music that speaks, not screams. The shockers on the list, fans react. When fans saw U2 and on the rumored list, social media practically imploded. Some defended, saying he just has higher standards. Others called him rock's version of a picky eater. The funniest comment came from a fan who wrote, "So basically he hates bands that make money." Ouch, but even that jab reflects something deeper: his discomfort with commercialized art. To him, music was never about trends or chart domination. He once said, "The more people shout about being authentic, the less they are." And that's classic Mark, quiet but lethal. Still, even die-hard Dire Straits fans admit the guy's taste can be brutally specific. One thing's sure, when throws shade, it lands softly but leaves a permanent bruise. Because behind every polite smile is a silent "I told you so" waiting for its guitar solo. The mystery behind his choices. Here's the twist: not everyone believes actually hates those bands. Some say the whole story started as a misquote from a decades-old interview that snowballed into myth. Others claim he was simply joking about bands I can't listen to while eating breakfast. Either way, the rumor stuck like gum on a boot. It's easy to see why the idea of a calm genius secretly judging his peers is irresistible. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the internet keeps it alive. Because who doesn't love imagining rock legends having petty group chats? At the end of the day, whether real or exaggerated, it paints as human, a man who loves, dislikes, and occasionally grumbles just like the rest of us. Except, of course, he does it with an perfect pitch. What other musicians said about it? When asked about the rumors, a few musicians couldn't resist chiming in. Reportedly laughed and said, "At least he spelled our name right." Bond shrugged it off with, "If Mark hates me, I'll send him a Christmas card." Even Chris Martin from Joke, "If he ever wants to jam, we'll play Sultans of Swing quietly." The camaraderie shows that rock rivalries today are more meme than mayhem. But still, the playful back and forth adds spice to an industry that sometimes takes itself too seriously. And honestly, who wouldn't want to see a charity concert called the bands Mark hated live in London? It'd sell out in minutes. Does Mark regret saying it? With all the buzz, fans wondered if ever regretted speaking so bluntly. But in typical Mark fashion, he stayed classy and vague. In one interview, he said, "I don't hate anyone, I just don't listen to everything." Translation: I'm too polite to confirm, but yes, I probably skipped your album. It's peak British diplomacy. He manages to sound humble while quietly roasting everyone, and that's part of his charm. Instead of fueling feuds, he lets his guitar do the talking, and frankly, that guitar speaks better English than most of us. Whether he meant it or not, his comments opened the door for a conversation about musical taste and why we're so defensive about it. Lessons from a legend. Beyond the gossip, there's something to learn from this. Reminds us that it's okay to dislike things, even popular ones. Not every band has to fit your playlist, and that's fine. In a world obsessed with likes, algorithms, and viral sounds stands for authenticity. He's the grandpa who still writes his own letters while everyone else sends emojis. His honesty might sound harsh, but it's refreshing in an era where everyone pretends to love everything. And maybe that's the secret to his longevity, being true, even when it's unpopular. Because if there's one thing rock taught us, it's that rebellion comes in many forms. Sometimes it's loud distortion, sometimes it's quiet defiance. The man who spoke in solos. At 76, Mark doesn't chase attention, attention chases him. Whether or not he truly hates those bands, the story reignited interest in his philosophy. Music should have meaning, not marketing. He's proof that silence can make a louder statement than any Twitter rant. And that's kind of poetic. The man who built his fame on restraint now makes headlines for breaking it. In the end, his hate list is less about hate and more about taste, a reminder that every artist, no matter how calm, has strong feelings simmering under the melody. So the next time you play Money for Nothing, just remember, he probably meant that lyric literally.